Fantasy managers, hello and welcome to the Game Week 6 FPL Addicts preview show for the Fantasy Premier League 2021 and 2022 season, powered by Esports Live and sponsored by Bonus Bank. You know, Game Week 5 is now over, but there's no time to rest. There's still so much going on within the world of FPL. So we've got the usual suspects for today. The Guru will be joining us a little bit later on. So what we'll do is we will get right into it. I'll bring up the results from Game Week 5 on the screen there, and we'll go to you first, Reedy. Was there a result that really stood out to you, do you think?
Thanks, Al. Good to be back, and obviously ready for Game Week 6 approaching. Result for me, it's got to be, I think, Chelsea Spurs. You look at the likes of Spurs starting out of the blocks, high intensity, and Chelsea just managed the game second half, absolutely battered them. But for me, from a personal aspect, I'd have to go for the Liverpool one because I was pretty happy with that result for us. Nice little win against Palace. A couple of cagey things happening in regards to Alisson nearly getting lobbed or whatever. But yeah, we pulled through. So yeah.
Really good result for Liverpool and a really, really good result for Chelsea, and you've got to get that in while the Guru's not here to, judge you or ridicule you for it, Reedy. So I definitely appreciate that, and obviously we'll have to remind Matt of that when he hops on a little bit later. But Statman Dave, I'll go to you secondly. Was there a result that really helped your FPL week this week, or a game that really stood out to you?
I think the bit of a surprise game for me was Man City Southampton. I don't think too many people would have expected a 0-0 draw out of that game, especially the amount of goals that Man City seem to be scoring at the moment. So that was certainly the surprise for me, I suppose. Yeah, but considering my poor FPL week, there wasn't many games that really impacted my score in a positive sense.
Yeah, we will touch on that just a little bit later. But Jack, I'll go to you finally. Another game this week. I'm sure you're going to mention your team, Man United. But was there a game that really shocked you, or you thought?
Oh, shocked me. I was shocked how United didn't score more. That was probably the biggest shock for me. But I think obviously United with the drama, it was end to end. United didn't really get a grip of the game and quite some big parts of it. But then they kind of came away with it in the end. And the last minute drama with the penalty. Oh my goodness. David De Gea with that save, absolutely, absolute gold. But I think obviously the big kind of another shock, I guess, in there would be the Chelsea one. There's obviously just ran riot with that 3-0 victory, and obviously Spurs were missing a good number of assets. But yeah, it was good fun, and just love Premier League. How good is it?
Absolutely, it's not like David De Gea to making penalty saves in 2021. So he's hoping it can sort of spark a little bit of good form for him. And obviously, the usual suspects were back at it. Jack, Ronaldo back in form. He's doing the business for Man United. Yeah,
and listen, in FPL terms, myself, I was I've gotten the Ronaldo train. Of course, he's going to bag a lot of goals this season. Play against West Ham. We've got a good record number of goals, and he was a likely character to score, and it didn't take him long to get off the mark. And obviously delighted with him, and returned and got us to 6 points in FPL. And if you haven't got him, you've got to get him in. He's the man. He's on form, and buzzing for Ronaldo to be doing that, and can't wait for the next game week against Aston Villa.
Yeah, he's absolutely essential at the minute. If you don't have him in your team, you are very, very brave. But we'll move on to, sort of see how the paid league is shaping up. As I said, it was another big week in terms of FPL. So as we can see on screen there, Jordy Wilson still stays at joint top with Mohan Ollie. Jordy Wilson was a guest on the podcast, and last season we had a little bit of a podcast curse. When people came on the podcast, they started to, decline in their form. But, he's sort of sticking strong, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a great start for Jordy, isn't it? He's done absolutely class so far, but we've got to remind him that there is always time. We're only in game week. What game week are we in now? Heading up to game week 6. There's still time for him to plummet down the mini league. I mean, hopefully he doesn't, because he's a top lad and he's doing class. So hopefully he stays at the top there. But, great start. He's equal top with Mahan, as you say. So, hopefully he keeps that rolling for his sake and maybe win some cash out of it.
Yeah, and Donau rounds up the top 3 in the paid league heading into game week 6, as Ollie said. But the free league is even more competitive, even more people in it. Youssef Alvarez has risen back up to the top, and Umar Dama sits there in second, just 2 points off the place, with Billy just trickling behind him, another 3 points behind him. So as I've always said, there's too many people in these leagues that aren't paying, that, could be getting so much money being in these paid leagues, so they've got to make sure next season when it comes around, or for the UCL leagues, they've got to get entered into these because they're too good to be just doing this for fun, I think. And the free league really shows that, and the women's league much the same as well. Karen Spence remains at the top for this week. She's broken the 400 mark this season, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's more than any of us on the podcast here. That's more than the Guru. So maybe we need to get a little bit of a change up here and get Karen on the podcast to teach us what we need to do. And Maya also stays there in second with Lisa also rounding off that top three. But we'll move on to the funnest league, in my opinion. It's actually quite funny because the Bonus Bank FPL head-to-head league. And Jack, we spoke about the average last week. The average was on 12 points heading into game week 5. They've managed to pick up another big 3 points, and average is on for the title charge. Yeah,
the average is picking up them points each week. Told you last week I've been a victim of the average, but it's I think it's just because a lot of fantasy managers are still doing the hit and miss one. Obviously, we saw Dave with his wild card last week. Obviously, scored low, and the average is picking off people and victims like Dave and getting the points against them. So, if he played against Ollie, might have been unfortunate there, but it was the average one to look out for. And I'm not too sure what happens if the average wins. How we're going to work that one out.
I mean, I was below the average this week, so the average would have beaten me this week, to be fair. So it wouldn't have been unfortunate. It would have been unfortunate for me.
That's it, mate. You got to look out for the average. I'm not too sure when Reed or you are playing him, Elliot, but we'll have to see who can take it on and beat him.
The average is the person in form in the leagues at the minute, and as Jack said, not really sure what's going to happen if the average does end up taking the league by storm. But fingers crossed that doesn't happen, and I'm pretty confident with the amount of competition that we've got in there that won't be happening. Before we get onto our hauls for game week 5, I just want to congratulate Paul Brown, who comes away with the game week 5 Manager of the Week award with his team Northeast United. Paul got 88 points this week with his wildcard, which was a lot more than myself and the Guru's wildcard teams, and he gets the $20 Aussie weekly prize. So well done to you, and we look forward to having you on the podcast very, very soon as a guest. But we'll move on to your team, Statman. We'll start with you again. 35 points this week. It's a little bit more despair for you, a little bit more dismay. But what went right for you this week?
Not a lot. I don't know what's going on. I think on paper I'm pretty happy with the team. They just can't seem to be all pulling in the right direction on the same day, which is frustrating. But Ben Rama, Bamford and Duffy were the only ones that really scored for me this week, which is disappointing. Another failed captaincy with Bruno, and my tether's run out with Bruno. He's no longer in my team, let alone captain now. So he's done. So I ended up taking a bit of a hit and moving Son and Ings out prior to the game week and brought in Lukaku and Gray, and neither of which of them hit either. So just not having a lot of luck right now with that sort of thing. As I sort of mentioned with Bruno, I've made a bit of a move for this week, but I'll mention that a bit later when we talk about our transfers.
Yeah, we will touch on transfers just after we've gone through all of our teams. But I think it's good, Statman. It's positive to see that you have stuck with Said Benrahma. I know a lot of people moved on with him when they played their wild card, but you've stuck with him, and he got you 10 points this week. So can you see him sort of sticking around for a while?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't looked ahead at his fixtures too much, but I think he's probably been one of the ones that I've been relying on since I bought him in. I think about week 2. I think I bought him in. He's not going anywhere. He actually survived my wild card, so he's still there.
Yeah, and I'll say it again, the same as I said last week, this team will start to pick up points, so I'm sure you won't be in the mud of it for too much longer. The team there is too good to not. Myself, I wasn't too happy with my wild card either. 54 points, 1 point below the average, which is really disappointing to see. When you play the wild card, you're expecting for the high heights and the high ceilings. My defense did absolutely nothing this week. It was just nothing all round. Mankia was an auto sub for Trent, who didn't end up playing, which again was really disappointing. Salah is the captain. He's absolutely essential at the minute. You can sort of just slap the armband on him and he's just going to get you points every single week. You score him for fun, he's assisting for fun, and the bonus point system absolutely loves him. I was disappointed with Jota. I think this week's sort of going to be the make or break with Jota. I think the Man City fixture coming up, although Liverpool do generally do well against City at home. I think a lot of people will be moving on from him if he doesn't start to perform. He hasn't performed since the first 2 game weeks of the season, and he did also have that open goal miss, which I think the less said about, the better. But Rafinha and Bamford were absolutely brilliant. One goal, both of them getting involved in it, was absolutely brilliant. Although it was against my team, Newcastle. The Guru spoke about it on the YouTube. It was an interesting Bamford assist. It's one of those where he's just the lucky player to be there, passing the ball to Rafinha, and a freakish cross and a lovely lead from Rodrigo, gave them the FPL points in the end. And then Jimenez had a game to forget. I don't even want to start talking about him. He was absolutely awful against Brentford. But, big things hoping for this week. And then Ronaldo, another goal, another week, another goal. It's just the way that it's going at the minute. Salah and Ronaldo, so essential at the minute. If they're not in your team, you need them both. It's too crazy to not go with them. And I was a little bit disappointed finally with my team. Livramento was left on the bench, I think rightfully so. I know a lot of people had him as their second sub. You'd expect away at Man City. The Guru was saying it. Everyone was saying it. You'd expect them to go to the Etihad and get battered. They're a team that they're known to lose 9-0 a fair bit. And that was a little bit of a disappointment. But if he was subbed on instead of Mankia, I would have got above the average. But yeah, 54 points for me this game week. Disappointing, but you build your wildcard team for a couple of weeks and you're trying to plan ahead. So I'm fingers crossed for the future. But we'll move on to your team, Jack. 50 points for you this week in a 55 average point week. What went right for you?
Finishing below the average, I took a 4-point hit as well, so it's probably 46 points ended up on there. But listen, a couple of good ones. I mean, Salah obviously delivering a lot of the. Obviously, I think he may have been the most captained of the game week for Salah. So yeah, he stepped up. Jota would have been nice, and as you mentioned, that obviously absolute sitter would have. He should have been finishing that. So it would have been nice if he got that and got the points for us. Disappointed with Greenwood because he was probably United's best player in the first half. I felt he looked really active and I thought he was going to come away with a bit more. So unfortunate there. But in United, obviously, we're showing that in the team. I'm a massive fan of Luke Shaw, but with United leaking goals still need to shore it up, no pun intended. But it definitely needs to get a bit more solid in there and stop conceding. But Duffy delivering again. That guy is delivering week after week. There was a lot of question marks over him, but he's going to keep his place for a little bit longer, it seems, which is great. And Son looked great in the first 10, 15 minutes for Spurs, to be fair. I know they're a bit of he's got an absolute smashing, but Son looked really good, looked lively. I'm not too sure what Harry Kane's doing out on the left, but it seemed, if Son's playing up top and he's a midfielder, then, it can't be bad. And then, of course, my Burnley assets, which obviously Ollie Walker-Peel will be happy with, not delivering. I think Brownhill's taken a knock as well. I think he's getting assessed for the weekend. So this is my last week with this team before a wild card. So I'm probably, I don't know what kind of moves I'm going to be making, but hopefully Brownhill can get through and just give me that extra man in the team just in case there's any other injuries to get through. And obviously delighted with Ronaldo returns. Quite happy I took the hit for him last week to bring him in. So I'm not missing out. And my bench did absolutely nothing apart from Tsimikas. I think he got 5 points, but he was my second sub, so missed out with Richarlison because he's obviously injured and he's out for a good time now. So interesting what's going to happen this week with a couple of moves. But overall, close to the average. So it's not the worst, but it's not the best either.
Yeah, and when you are going to be playing your wild card, Jack, you've sort of got that safety net to fall back on, and it's sort of just like you're trying to crawl your way, just sort of keep up with the pack at the minute. There's so many injuries with your team, so you've still got that comfort of the wild card, which can definitely be your saving grace, don't you think?
Yeah, that's it. I'm still kind of wondering what I should do because now I know that I am going to play my wild card next week for game week 7. This week's I feel like it's a bit of a free rein to maybe take another hit just in case, sort of thing. So maybe make another transfer and taking the free hit just to see what happens. But I don't know what you think about that. I don't know if Ollie, you've got any advice around that?
I mean, having taken one already this week, I'd be very tentative about taking another. Because at the moment, statistically, quite a fair way down the mini league as well. So taking another
facts are facts.
I'm not saying that just to be annoying. I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm just saying it because to start. I mean, it was better than last season, so improvements. But not had the greatest start.
Last season, definitely.
Exactly. It's a take the positives.
To be fair, so have you, Ollie. You've improved from last season.
I mean, yeah, but we'll get on to me in a bit. It's not about me. It's about Jack, isn't it? So, take another hit. If you're sure it's going to work, if you've got a good feel it's going to work, then maybe. But I'd be very, very cautious on doing so since you've already taken one this week.
All right, you carry on sitting at the top of that tower, mate, and passing your knowledge down. I knew that was a good idea to ask you for your advice. So you're doing the total opposite.
Thank you, mate. How much times have changed? How much times have changed?
Good man. But yeah, I'll see how I go, and I think it's back to you, Elliot.
Might be one to ask the guru, run it by him, see what he thinks.
I'll ask someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably best. And Ollie clearly doesn't have time for the people lower down the league these days. He's too focused on his business at the top. So we'll move on to someone who is a little bit higher, only by 5 points, Reedy. So be careful. Ollie might bite you at this point, so just don't poke the bear. We will move on to your team. You got 51 points this week, so you did get one more than Jack. So maybe you'll get that little bit more respect from Ollie there. So 51 points, Reedy. How'd your week go?
Yeah, thanks, El. It went okay. A bit better than Jack, as you say there. Ollie going in hard. He's not messing about this season because he's doing well, isn't he? But we'll soon see how that goes in a few weeks when he's crying into his cereal. So it was okay. Salah's saving everyone's behinds at the moment. These are the players getting your 2s and 1s and things like that. Ben White was a plus for me for Arsenal. They're keeping that clean sheet at the moment, and other than that, really, it wasn't a great week. Danny Ings got that assist, I think, which was okay, which was decent. Jesus didn't pay off for me. I brought him in and I took a hit, regretfully now. But Salah's that guy. You get the captain's armband on him, and he's gonna pretty much get most of your points. So I could have done better. I would have liked to have done better. I have dropped down quite a lot in regards to overall ranking and things like that. But I'm hoping I can have a lot better game week this up and coming one. And just to answer your question in regards to bonus bank before, who's playing the average next? It's actually myself. So we've got that one on the horizon as well, and I've got something to do. Yeah, exactly.
One. Play some good football, mate. Be careful. It's they're getting the points at the minute. They're getting their team over the line, so they're just waiting for their next victim. And unfortunately, it looks like you are in the firing line. But we've got a question, and I'm inclined to think it's from James Gaston. He says, "Who's joining me on the Pookie train?" He's been very vocal about the Pookie party. The Pookie party's in full flow. He would have been delighted this week with Timu Puki's goal. Reedy, are you joining the Pookie train?
Oof. I'm not quite sure on that one. After seeing Norwich this year, and also after seeing Norwich in the cup last night, I know Pookie came on a little bit near the end and whatnot, but unfortunately not. There's too many spicy assets out there up top. At the moment, your Ronaldo's, your Lukaku's, if you can afford them, or if you've already got them. Bamford potentially as well. I wouldn't say it's 100% getting him in, especially with Chelsea playing Norwich in the next couple of game weeks or so. I don't know if he's got it in the locker this season, Pookie, unfortunately.
I think that's a fair call. I know a lot of people are very hesitant to be getting him in as well. So, balance is ever, Reedy, but you've taken more of a side there, I think, and the more of the side is definitely a firm no. I think hold off, wait and see. But, if he keeps firing, I'm sure he'll be, brought in by a lot of managers. But, as he says, a lot of other assets at the minute, similar price, Ivan Toney, those sorts of players, St. Maximin, who are just doing the business better at the minute than Pookie, I think. But we'll move on to your team, Ollie, because we will miss out on the guru. If you want to see how he went this week, you'll have to check out our YouTube. It's FPL Addicts. All the details will be in the caption below. So just make sure you go and do that and see how his wild card paid off in the end. And you can also see, what he's planning for next week, and the Scout 11 for the week coming out in the coming days and coming hours on the YouTube as well. So make sure you're active on that and you're seeing how the guru went. And Ollie, 52 points this week, and for someone who was so quick to denounce Jack for that, only 2 points more than him, only 1 point more than Reedy. Were you happy with this week?
No, I wasn't. And before I do go on, like to say that I'm throwing shade at everyone in the Nan, like I haven't had a great week whatsoever, have I really? If we're being honest, I got bailed out by my midfielders, obviously Ben Rama. Some might argue slightly lucky to get that goal. I think, on another day that might be given an own goal, but I always contested that it was on target anyway, and it was a fair goal for Ben Rama. So I took that. I wanted Ronaldo over Salah. Admittedly, could have had a couple of the penalties. So that was slightly annoying. Confident I can keep a good start going though. Still 2 points clear of the so-called guru. So hopefully we can keep that up. I had a 17-point lead heading into the game week over him, and he's clawed 15 and then back. So I'm quite disappointed there. Livramento coming off the bench for Trent. He was my first sub, so that was a bit of an accidental managerial masterstroke. Having him come off the bench, getting a clean sheet away at City was something that I never thought that he would do. Obviously, a pair of South Coast defenders getting 5 points, which was nice. But the rest of my team was a shambles other than that, really. So I've got a bit of work to do. I've already made my transfers. I made them on Monday because I looked to avoid a price rise. So risky, very risky. I can see your face there, Jack. Obviously, before before the Carabao Cup games, I've survived the first day. If I can survive the second day, I should be all right. So, looking
hold
the
transfers.
To be fair, I saw that video about an hour after I made my transfers.
Say, you're not checking the socials quick enough, mate. Jack's putting a video out telling all the managers, hold off, these are the teams playing. He's trying to help.
I think it was uploaded after, so that's my saving grace. I always check the socials. I'm straight on them.
Your fault, Jack. It's your fault.
No, it's not his fault at all.
No, it's upload because the hold went on for about an hour.
Quality, but you need to make sure if unlike me you're a bit slow on the content, don't be me, because that content coming out there is class, including these short videos we've got coming out there. So go and follow us over on Instagram, and you'll be able to get all that good stuff. But in terms of my week, again, it's another one where I just need to move on, get to next week, and hopefully I can be having a bit of a better week and can keep that lead at the top, which is weird to say.
Being the man at the top on the podcast right now, I think you can be trusted to answer Wing L's question. Ollie says, good morning. Is Josh King going under the radar? Watford did well. He led the line superbly at 5.5 million. He could be a great enabler. What's your sort of view on this, Ollie?
Well, I said this last night. I was on an FPL space on Twitter last night, and I raised the same question with Danny Welbeck instead of King. As if you're going for a full squad, a full 15-man squad, and that, to be fair, on that space, I got absolutely ridiculed. On Twitter how you can have those emojis come up. There was about 20 million laughing emojis that came up as soon as I made that Welbeck comment. But I think both Welbeck and Josh King are fair shouts if you want a third striker. So if you're playing two strikers, as I'm on the screen, if you're playing maybe a 4-4-2 and you want a third striker on the bench who's playing games and is cheap, I don't think Josh King's a bad shout. Obviously, did absolutely nothing at Rovers when he was there, but that was in the past. Since then, he's gone on to do bigger and better things, namely at Bournemouth. But I think maybe him, Dennis, possibly another one. Welbeck, Hwang Hee-chan could be another. There's a ton at that price you could bring in. I don't think Josh King would be my main one.
Yeah, how many did he score in the night, Jack?
He scored 4 overnight. Don't do that. If you want to be rising up the leagues, don't be bringing in Jay Rodriguez. But I think you can bring in someone around that price point. I'll be leaning more towards Welbeck or Dennis, but Josh King isn't a bad shout, not at all.
Yeah, so I think the takeaway from that is get Jay Rodriguez in, get Chris Wood in, get Ashley Barnes in, all the Burnley assets that you possibly can. But Ollie, as I've said, we ridicule you for it, but you are the man sitting near the top of the league at the minute. So it's fair play to you, and you can keep taking the hate because you're performing at the minute. Maybe this week's just a little bit of an outlier, and you can get back on your high horse and trot your way to the November trophy, which I know you hold so dearly. But I just want to ask you quickly, Ollie, does it hurt you that you have lost the trophy already this season? Of I beat the average every single week, only 5 game weeks in? Is that one a real dagger to the heart?
I've lost it twice as well. It's not just the first time. I lost it a couple of weeks ago too. So it was a real pain. Obviously, I don't know there's a few people out there, obviously the likes of D10 who was bragging earlier on, Dan Capolaro, who's joining us on the watch along this week. So that's something to look forward to. And we're going to do a razzle account in the top right corner, how many times he mentions it on the watch along, but can't wait to see him come on. That'll be class. He was bragging about how good his week was before. So that was obviously decent, but you know what? I have lost the trophy, but I'm hoping to gain another one, the more important one of winning something this season, be it this podcast mini. I think the free mini is too far to dream, but who knows?
Got to dream big, mate. You got to dream big. And thank you to everyone who is watching along live right now. D10, Pizza Boy, and Sam that I can see in the live comments. Thank you very much for your interactions. And keep getting your questions in if you've got any. The real guru will be back on later, but until then, we've got his intern. We've got Ollie Walker-Peel filling in his boots at the minute. So the proper guru will be back at some point, we hope. We have intel saying that he's out at the minute, so he'll do his best that he can to, the FPL radars in the sky. It's like the bat logo. He's rushing back home so he can help people with their FPL. But that's enough about game week 5 now. It's all about game week 6. There's been a lot of Carabao Cup fixtures this week, as Jack was warning everyone about on the socials. But there's also a lot of Premier League games coming up this week, and there's a lot of exciting fixtures to keep your mind on, keep thinking about getting these players into your team. So I'll start with you, Ollie. As the FPL king of today, what fixture really pops out to you?
This is like a coronation. This, my days. I'll start with the early kickoff. I think both of those games are brilliant. I'm gonna edge towards Chelsea Man City though, just because of the fanfare that's gonna be around that game. Obviously, the Lukaku from Chelsea's been brilliant. Reece James comes back, recently has had that red card, so he'll be back in full flow now. One should think, and even from City as well. Obviously, we don't know what Pep's going to do. We never know what Pep's going to do. I mean, he's calling Akin Fenwa a legendary player this morning, so no one expected that, and no one ever expects his team selection. So, will he go with Grealish? Which one of his attackers will he play? Who knows? Should be set up for an absolutely corking game as well. Early kickoff, the better of the two early kickoff games, even though the other one isn't to be sniffed at either. Can't wait for 9:30 Saturday night. Roll it on.
Absolutely. I think, they're going to be two brilliant fixtures and two very decisive fixtures for a lot of people's week. So I think, we're going to be able to see a clear message of who's going to be taking green arrows and who's going to be taking red arrows pretty early on in this game week. I'll go to you, Statman Dave. Is there a fixture here that you're looking, keeping your eyes on? There's players that maybe are in your team that are playing that you're hoping can return?
I was probably initially going to say Chelsea Man City, but I think probably let's see what the return of Antonio brings, I suppose, against Leeds. Maybe hopefully he can score and get me out of my little funk that I'm in.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be interesting. As I've said, there's a lot of good games, and I think that's a very fair call as well. Reedy, I'll ask you for a third and final one for this game week. Which game are you keeping your eye on?
Oh, it's got to be that London derby, hasn't it? Not the two best teams in terms of watching football and things like that, but Arsenal Spurs is normally a decent encounter, and hopefully they come out the blocks and they're really up for it. They've both got something to play for. Arteta is still hanging on in there. Arsenal still getting the 1-0 wins, and Spurs took that little bit of a hiding from Chelsea, so they'll be looking to bounce back. Hopefully Harry Kane can decide to turn up this week. And depending on what Arsenal teams put out, the likes of Aubameyang and so on, it could be a juicy one. It has got that sort of build up to it. On the back of that, it could be a 0-0. So we will see. But that's my pick for this week.
Yeah, and another man who's going to be really happy if Harry Kane does show up this week is the Guru. He's popped on the bottom of the screen. Matt, it's great to have you back on today. And we've been having to go to Ollie for our advice because he's the reigning FPL champion, the superiority on the podcast. So I'm really glad that you're here now. How are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Elliot. Obviously, another big week of FPL ahead of us. Another big weekend of FPL has just finished. So, yeah, doing well and looking forward to game week 6.
Yeah, it should be an absolute cracker. And while we're on the topic of game week 6, we can now move on to who we're going to go for our transfers for this week. Jack, you've spoken about, the possibility of taking another hit this week. If you were going to be taking that hit, what sort of moves do you think you'd be making?
Well, the thing is, I've got Richarlison out, so I've got 7.6 in here. Probably going to look at a couple of different assets. I know someone's mentioned Tony, Pookie. Are they good assets to look at? Definitely not going to bring Danny Welbeck in. Other ones are, who was my other one I've got on my hit list? 2 seconds, I'll just bring it up on here. On my in front of me. Where is it? Bamford was obviously the other one. Bamford was the obvious one, but he's obviously taken a knock. So I'm not too sure if he's going to be on that list. And obviously I can't afford him, but if Antonio Bamford, if I can get them in, we're going to have to take a hit to bring them in. Maybe wipe out a midfielder. And yeah, look to make a bit of room. I mean, the cheaper assets was Saint Maximin, which I know you'll like, El. So that's what I was going to ask you about. What do you think about Saint Maximin bringing him in, obviously against Watford this week?
I think whilst we don't have Wilson, is probably the perfect time to get him in your team, because every single time we get the ball, it's going to his feet. It's do your magic, save us, do whatever you can, because he's the only competent player on the pitch that really looks like doing something. So I think, you might as well go for him now. Wilson should be back in 2 or 3 weeks, I think they're saying now. So, we've got a nice fixture. Watford away this week. It's definitely not going to be an easy game, but, Watford's defence isn't brilliant. Saint Maximin can exploit that, I think. So it's probably a good call to have, I think, Jack.
Yeah, decent cheers, El. I think he's probably up on that list without taking a hit. And the only other one, maybe Edward for Crystal Palace, which I know you mentioned earlier. Obviously, Dan's mentioned he loves a Razzle, he loves Saint Maximin, so he's definitely up there. Edward for Crystal Palace was another one. And the last one was Chris Reed's mate, Rondon for Everton. So I don't know if Chris would fancy him, but I've gone off Everton big time. So, if Digne's out this weekend as well after picking up the injury this morning, if he's out, then Everton are going to look even more dire, I reckon, without DCL and no Richarlison. Is Rondon the man, Chris Reed?
Is he going to start? Probably. Is he going to score? Probably not. So I would avoid him at all costs, mate. Avoid him at all. It's similar to the Pookie one. I would avoid Rondon and Pookie. You've got Cristiano. You're probably going to slap the armband on Cristiano or whatever. So, I'd avoid Everton, like you're saying.
Yeah, fair enough. So, maybe avoid him and, bring in Saint Maximin, El. I think Newcastle are due something still good, aren't they? Maybe
let's get the Razzler. Get the Razzler in.
I'll have a look at him, but then no other kind of big moves yet. Like I said, wildcard pending in another week. So I think that's probably the only one.
Yeah, and I think, you've got that comfort, Jack, don't you? You can sort of afford to go for a player for 1 week, sort of a 1 week punt. And then, if they perform, they're great. If they don't, they're going to be out of your team in your wild card anyway. So you might as well go for a player with a really nice fixture this week. And, if you think St. Maximin's going to be the player to do that, then absolutely do go with him. Ollie, are we going to be seeing Danny Welbeck in your team this week as your transfer, is my question.
No, I did joke about triple captaining him earlier in the week, but
back it up, Ollie. Come on.
No. I've got good strikers already. I've got Ronaldo, Ronaldo, Kane, and Antonio. So you're shaking your head, but I actually want to keep a good start going. So
can I ask you about Harry Kane? What your thoughts are, Ollie?
He's my last week in my team, regardless. Regardless of what I do this weekend. Last weekend in my team for him. Last game week in my team. I'm going to Lukaku next week.
Oh, okay, you're making the switch. Had
that plan. Look at me with a bit of knowledge, with a bit of planning. But my actual transfers do involve a Chelsea player in Reece James. I brought him in earlier on. I know he might be falling in price, or it's projected to fall in price. But if he gets out there, we've seen what he can do. Tough fixture this week, but I just wanted to get him in because I had the 2 free transfers, Man City. But after that, it's all right. And then also my second transfer is Backman out to the Cycling GK, friend of the pod. So that saves me the money. And then next week will be Kane to Lukaku.
Yeah, I've got no idea why you're not going with Welbeck, mate. You talked him up before, talking him up on all these Twitter spaces or whatever. The only solution that I can come to, it's got to be Ollie Mind Games.
Speaking of Twitter spaces, by the way, we're running one ourselves, aren't we, Matt?
Yeah, that's right, Ollie. Saturday, UK time. 7 p.m. Melbourne time, which I believe is 10 a.m. UK time, isn't it, Reedy? So we've got the 9-hour difference. So we're running a FPL space Saturday night. Everyone's welcome. FPL_Addicts is the Twitter handle. So get involved. It should be good.
Should be absolutely brilliant. And as Ollie said, he's been on a couple of them, sharing his Danny Welbeck thoughts. He's spreading the propaganda all around the FPL community, and he's doing it so he can go up to the top and not get Danny Welbeck in his team. It's an absolutely brilliant strategy from him. Ollie Walker Peel masterclass. But in terms of me, for my transfers this week, it's the Elliott special for this week for me. It's a rollover, and we need some sort of gift, Jack, or some sort of video. We need to get something for when I'm saying I'm going to roll over, something like that, because it's happening every other week. You just know it's going to happen.
From the beginning of the pod from me could work, couldn't it? The one at Jack's joke. We might be able to bring that one up.
we could definitely do something. I'm sure we'll work something out. Elliot,
Elliot's got a meal deal or Asda meal deal roll over. Was it Asda?
I can't remember.
No one's on the same page with me. Okay, I know where I'm trying to go.
Well, we'll have to find it and bring it up, mate. But Elliot, so you're rolling over because you're thinking of playing your wild card next week as well, no?
I've already played it, mate. Played it this week.
So. You've already played, didn't you? So you already played it, didn't you? So you'll have to roll over. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think, if you got any sort of spine in you after you play your wild card, you've got to just, own it, keep going no matter what happens, and back the ability of your team. And I've got big plans for game week 7, when Chelsea get that really nice fixture swing. So I definitely think it's worth it. And Ollie, the Welbeck propaganda continues. Ozspike reckons Welbeck's a bargain for 6 million in the top 4. He's not wrong at the minute. Brighton are on absolutely brilliant form under Graham Potter this season. So it's good to see that someone else is agreeing with you, Ollie, isn't it?
To be fair, when I made the Welbeck comment, I thought he was 5'5". If I knew he was 6, I didn't check his price. If I knew he was 5, if I knew he was 6, I probably wouldn't have said it. But if he keeps scoring, then maybe. But I'm not bringing him in. I just think he's potentially not a bad option for someone who's playing every week to maybe have on your bench if you can't go to St. Maximin. But that's all I'll say on that, because I'm not getting Danny Welbeck in. We can have a laugh and a joke, but he's not going in my team.
Yeah, just keep backpedaling, mate. Just keep backpedaling. Just take
mate,
back what you said.
I will if I'm top of the league, mate. I will if I'm top of the league. Can do what I want, pal.
It's a fair call, mate. But Statman, I'll ask you any sort of transfers this week. You alluded to one before. Bruno Fernandes is out of your team. Is it Cristiano Ronaldo in?
No, it's not. I'm not normally one to go early on my transfers, but knowing that these two players were going to have price changes, I had to jump in early. So Bruno is out, and finally I've been talking up Salah for the last few weeks. He's finally made it in, and still got $500,000 in the bank to play with. So got a couple of injury concerns with Basuma and Bamford this week, but I'll probably just have to wear that if they don't get up. But yeah, Salah will be captain. So be warned, knowing my luck, he's going to blank now. So just be aware of that for you guys if you're going to captain Salah.
Yeah, we don't want the
Statman. Well done, Statman. Welcome to the game, mate. Bringing Salah in.
Was the one little glimmer of hope that all the FPL
I'm going to ruin him for
had.
everyone now. Now that I've picked him, I'm going to ruin him for everyone.
Yeah, sounds about right. The Statman curse. You've heard it here first. Salah out this week. It's all about Mane now. Dave's gone with Salah, so you've got to get Mane in your teams. But Reedy, I'll go to you finally. What are your transfers for this week?
Well, I've been thinking of making maybe just the one rather than taking a hit this week. I brought Jesus in last week. He didn't perform. He didn't deliver. So I'm thinking do a switch him out for Antonio. Regretting not keeping him maybe on the bench. I could have just done that and kept Armstrong in for the 2-pointer against City. But yeah, so it's either make that one, bring Antonio in, or do I make the 2 where I could bring Antonio and Sarr in, Antonio and Ben Rama in, or even Jamie Vardy and Sarr in. So I've got a bit of money in the bank there. I am thinking of maybe the -4, but then I am reluctant because, like Jack, I am looking at playing my wild card next week. So I have got to consider, whether it's worth the gamble or not. And yeah, that's my thoughts so far. Antonio, Sarr, Ben Rama, and Vardy. So it could just be one transfer, or it could be 2.
A lot of transfers, a lot of decisions to be making. It's getting into, the business sort of middle part of FPL. So there's lots of decisions to be made. I'll go through just quickly. I've got to ask a captain pick from everyone. We'll start with you, Jack. Who's getting the armband this week?
I was about to play the Ronaldo video then, but I think I deleted it.
You have, thank God.
Yes.
I'm going to go Ronaldo. I think it's going to be quite split between a lot of people this week, Salah or Ronaldo. But United have got a great record against Villa, similar to West Ham. Loads of goals, hopefully. Ronaldo's got a good record against them, so I'm going to back the legend, the man himself. Viva Ronaldo.
Guru, obviously you're not going to disclose who you're captaining this week on the podcast today. So where can people find out, what your transfers are going to be for the week and who you're captaining?
So on the Friday night podcast, we're doing some hot tips, and I'll be revealing my captain then. So, for those that watched the team selection last night, know it's between 2 players, but we will reveal all on Friday.
Ooh, you've got to check out the YouTube to make sure you're staying up to date with all the ingoings and outgoings on the Guru's team. For me, I think it's going to be Mohamed Salah, most informed player in FPL at the minute. You can't miss him. Ollie, Danny Welbeck, captain, triple captain, slap the armband on him, get him in, surely.
I'm gonna have to get him in at some point in the season, aren't I? Just to honour it. It'll be between Mikel Antonio and Ronaldo. I think Leeds look very, very abject defensively, but I'm gonna go with Ronaldo. I think just.
Interesting. I'll be interested to see how that one goes. It's going to be a fair split between Ronaldo and Salah, I think, this week. Reedy, I'm going to assume you're going to back Mohamed Salah in.
Who else? Your Ronaldo's getting goals, but is he stepping up the same as Salah is? Don't think so. We saw what Ronaldo was about against West Ham last week. Loves a dive. I think we'll miss 20 more of that from him. So Mo Salah's the man. Could even get a hat-trick this weekend. We will see.
Is that Chris Reed making a decision? I can't believe it.
It is, Jack. It is on this occasion. I've tightened up from last week. You said to me I'm too indecisive. So Mo Salah's your man. There you go. You've heard it.
The human fence as finally
Wait a minute. Anna's still above you in the league. Sit down.
Too good. As I said, it's going to be a fair split between Salah and Ronaldo, I think, this week. Statman Dave, who are you going to go with?
Yeah, definitely Salah. Hopefully he does bag a hat-trick and it might break the Statman curse. So that's what I'm certainly hoping for.
Oh, Dave, you've screwed it for all of us. I'm absolutely not excited to see how this one goes. I might have to go Ronaldo just for this week, but that is our transfers and our captain picks for game week 6. Just quickly, I want to give a big thank you to last week's guest, David from Bonus Bank, who is our fantastic sponsor for the 2021 and 2022 season. Bonus Bank shows you how to make a guaranteed profit by taking advantage of bookmaker promotions from across every sport, not just football. And members of our community have been using Bonus Bank's platform for free to review bookie promotions and bonuses on the Premier League in the past couple of game weeks. The platform is also free to join, but if you do want to unlock special features and go premium, make sure you use code FPL Addicts to receive a 25% discount on your first month's membership and no lock-in contracts. See the link in our caption for details and you'll learn how you can make immediate profit. So we move on to the guest section now, and today we have got a very, very special guest. We've got Rory. He's a very good friend of Ollie, and he's a part of our FPL Addicts community. So welcome to you, Rory. How are you doing, mate?
Not too bad.
That's what we like to hear, mate. And Ollie, I've got a quick question for you. Is Rory the better FPL manager, or are you the better FPL manager?
No, it's me, mate. 100% it's me. But no, he'll disagree. I told you disagree. Look at him. But no, we're both fairly competent, and it's good to see that we've both started the season fairly decently. And it's been good to see. Hopefully, it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rory, you're sitting in the top 483k and on a total of 355 points in total. So we'll get right into the questions. How long have you been playing FPL for, mate? And this season so far, are you doing better or are you doing worse than you'd like to think?
I'm doing all right. I mean, compared to last year was the first year I took it quite seriously. So, there's been a bit of an improvement. Just captain-wise, I had Harry Kane as captain for game week 3 and 4. Let me down quite a lot. So, if it wasn't for him, then I'll be, I think, top 50k. So, overall, I'm quite happy with how I'm performing.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got your FPL page, so people are taking your advice. The little goat on the screen there, Matt. I think you've got the next question for Rory.
I do indeed. Nice to meet you, Rory. Obviously, it's good to put a face to the name. We spoke a lot on Discord and a bit on Instagram, so buzzing to meet you, mate. Even though it's obviously virtually. But yeah, got a couple of questions, mate. First one, it's obviously good to have you on, and obviously welcome to our community. So, sorry, lads, I've actually lost the question.
That's all right. I can ask it for you if you want, Guru.
Yeah, go on, Elliot. Sorry, lads, I've completely lost the question.
That's
Go on,
all
Elliot.
right.
Sorry, boys, that's poor.
We've got a question from our Discord community that usually the guru would be answering, but we've decided to give it to you today as the FPL GOAT. So FPL Commander, who's another potent member of our community, says, how do you deal with managing the hype in form of players? So, for example, Sarr, with Watford's fixtures looks great at the minute, but is it about being reactive? Is it about taking your time, do you think?
Well, for me personally, I use Fantasy Football Hub. So if someone has a crazy week, like Sarr last week, I'll have a look at their stats throughout the season and see if it was a fluke or not. So with Sarr this year, he's had decent stats throughout the year. So, playing Norwich, who are probably the worst team in the Premier League, you would expect him to get some decent returns, and he did. But yeah, I'd always have a look at their points throughout the season and their stats to see if it matches up with their performance. And if it's just one game where they've had just a crazy game week, then I wouldn't really look into them. But if they've had good stats throughout the season, then I'll definitely have a look and see if they'll fit in my team.
Nice one, Rory. I've actually got a question for you this time. So yeah, sorry about that before. So can you just name some differentials for the upcoming game week?
Yeah, so I quite like Jay Rodriguez, great player, one of Ollie's favourite players, in my opinion. I think he quite likes him. No, but on a real, I quite like the look of some Arsenal players. So Ramsdale can be a shout. So at the minute, I'm playing Schmeichel and Sanchez in rotation. So if I wanted to point 5, he's got good fixtures, so he could be a shout. Martin Odegaard as well, 5.5, good price, quite cheap. Scored a great goal against Burnley on the weekend. So he could be a player I quite like. And I quite like Dennis from Watford. He's got Newcastle and Leeds, so fixtures where you can definitely get some good returns. And for 5.2 million, if you want to play a 3 up front, he's a great player to have.
I agree. I think, Dennis is a good shout. So the other two, probably a bit too much Arsenal for me. But, look, I do agree they're going to be good differentials, once Arsenal can start scoring a few more goals. But, yeah, love the Dennis pick at home to Newcastle. Was obviously very cheap. So, yeah, nice one, Rory.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that Dennis pick, Newcastle at home, as the guru just said. But Daniel's got a little question for you, Rory. He says, who's your favourite football player of all time and why?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm a Middlesbrough supporter, so, I quite like watching Adama Traore when he was at Borough. It was unreal. I mean, under Tony Pulis as well, you wouldn't expect them to be together. But, just watching him play was unreal. He picked the ball up just from inside our own half, just carried the ball towards the goal. I remember he played Leeds United. We won 3-0. Bamford got a hat-trick. It was unbelievable, that game. I think he had a couple of assists. He just took every single player on. It was just crazy. But outside Middlesbrough, I'll probably say Ronaldo. Unreal player. Or Haaland. Haaland's fantastic. Scores every single week as well. So probably those three.
Waiting for the day that Haaland moves to the Premier League, mate, so I can get him in my FPL team, and it's just guaranteed points every single week. But I do have one final question for you from myself, and then Ollie's going to ask one just after that. I've just got to ask, have you used your wild card already? And, if you haven't, what's your sort of strategy with it? What would you sort of advise with it, heading up to this festive period?
I haven't. I was going to play it next game week, but looking at my team at the minute, it doesn't really need a wild card. But depending on the injuries I've got, so I've got Aileen, I've got Rafinha, Trent as well this week. So if they're all out, then wild card might have to be used this game week. But I'm not sure when I'm going to use it. I was definitely going to, throughout the season, game 7, I was going to use it, but I'm not sure when I'm going to use it anytime soon.
Roy, mate, great to get back in touch with you, mate. I know it's been a while. Good to get back in touch with you over FPL, and obviously hope you're well, mate. Just one final question from me. Have you got any other tips and advice for myself? Maybe I need some. Maybe I need my head bringing down a little bit and be brought back to earth. Or for any of our other listeners and inside the community going into this game week.
I'm Carabao Cup this week, so I'd make sure I'd hold on to my transfers to the end of the week. after the press conferences, because you don't want to bring someone in and they're in and you have -4. So I mean, that's for this game week especially. I would hold off to the transfers, and I wouldn't rush into any like transfers this week. You know, coming off of last game week when they've had a big score, I wouldn't rush into someone like that. You know, just play it safe.
Easy, mate. Fair play.
And we'll move on to the final little section of the guest section. It's a little game that we've conjured up ourselves. And Ollie, I'll let you take the reins for it today, and I'll give Rory the choice of the two players. I'll bring up the 30-second timer on the screen now, and the rules are fairly simple. You probably know how it works. Ollie's going to give you a choice of two players, and you've got to say which one you prefer. So the idea is that it's quick fire, and you've got 30 seconds. Ollie, whenever you're ready, I'll click play, mate.
All right, mate. Whenever you're ready, mate.
Yep, too easy.
All right, let's go. So, first one, Lukaku or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Bruno or Salah?
Salah.
Marcel or Cresswell?
Marcel, because he's cheaper.
Bamford or Antonio?
Antonio.
Grealish or Ferran Torres?
Grealish.
Greenwood or Benrahma?
Benrahma.
Final one, I know the time's gone. Adama or Damari Gray, obviously being a former Borough player.
Adama just. Everton are a shambles at the minute. That many injuries.
Mate, you lot couldn't even beat us, mate. What are you talking about other teams being shambles? Borough are doing shocking, mate. What are you on about?
I'll agree with you there, Ollie. I mean, we're in a shambles, but I mean, Everton, oh my word. I mean, how many injuries they've got now? So, Dama, just.
Fair play, mate. Fair play, mate.
I think that's a very fair call, Rory. And we thank you very much for your time and for popping on the podcast today. Just before you go, if people want to find your FPL content, and we know you're on an Instagram page, what's that called? Where can they find you?
Yep. So on Instagram, I am the FPL Goat. So search that up. I just started the channel. I just started the page about 2 months ago. It's growing quite quickly. And, need any tips or, you just want to message me about your team, I'm there for you guys. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. And best of luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So we will move on now to the Guru section. We're hoping that the Guru's got all of his stuff in order now, and he's got his picks for us, because it's the information section of the podcast. It's the important bit. So Guru, I won't say any more, mate. I'll just let you take it away.
Nice one, Elliot. And yeah, look, I've got my usual sections this week, and we'll start off with the watch list and my differentials. There's only a couple on there so far, and the first one's going to be a Liverpool player against Brentford. It's Andy Robertson, 1.6% ownership. He's had his rest now. I think he's going to come back flying in that fixture, and I think he's a really, really good pick for this week. And yeah, 1.6% ownership's nothing. So, if you can afford him, grab him in your wild cards. I think he's going to get some big scores going forward. My next one, Zaha, 5.4% for Brighton. For those that saw the Scout 11 or going to watch the Scout 11 video, they'll notice he's in there. I think he's a great pick this week. Obviously got a good score at home to Spurs a couple of weeks ago. And we've seen that he's on penalties as well. So 5.4% ownership. I think he's a brilliant pick this week in midfield. And then my next one, it's a Leicester player at home to Burnley. It's going to be Tielemans at 4.3%. I think he's a great pick. He got an assist on the weekend as well. So really liking that shout.
Yeah, Tielemans is a great player. He's so good to watch. He's been so influential for Leicester. If he can start getting those FPL points, then I'm sure a lot of people will be hopping on that train. But you've got your captain picks as well, Guru, and I can probably guess two of the players that are going to be on here. But who have you gone with?
Obviously, two of them are quite easy this week. Salah, Cristiano Ronaldo has got to be on there. Both of them have got good games. It's going to be a very tight call between both. Personally, think Salah might just pip it this week. So they're on there. And then I've also got Trent Alexander-Arnold on there this week. I think he'll be back from his illness and he'll be firing.
Yeah, Trent's a really nice pick, if you want to go with that one that's, not going to be the normal one, but definitely not a curveball captain in his own right. But you do have your separate curveball captain, Guru. So who have you gone with for this week?
It's going to be Vardy, I think, against Burnley. I think this is a good fixture for Leicester on paper. I've not been impressed with Burnley so far this season. Normally they're quite a tight team at the back, but they've been letting goals in pretty easy. Leicester Leicester lost to Brighton, but they're unlucky not to pull a result. They had 2 disallowed goals towards the end. Should have scored a few more than just the one. So yeah, Jamie Vardy, great record against Burnley as well, and he's at home. So I think comes in as a curveball just because Ronaldo, probably beats him in terms of the amount of people that are going to have him as captain. So yeah, Vardy for me. I think he's a great shout this weekend.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Jamie Vardy's a player that's going under the radar at the minute, and the fact that he's a curveball captain, he has to be in that section because it's absolutely ludicrous to not include him in these sorts of players that should be, deserving of the armband this week. But you've got your 3 big FPL fixtures this week, Guru. So which ones have you gone with?
Man City versus Chelsea, I think is massive. There's a lot of Chelsea players in people's teams now, the likes of Lukaku, obviously Rudiger, Alonso, those types of players. And then with Man City, there's a few still with Ferran Torres. You've got the likes of Diaz, Ederson, Cancelo. So I think it's a massive FPL game. I can see it being quite tight. I can definitely see a 1-0, 0-0 type of game in that one. I think it'll be quite defensive. Next one, Man United versus Villa. There's a lot of people with Ronaldo in their team. There's people still with Greenwood, Bruno. So I think that's a massive game and will decide a lot of points. And then my last one's going to be Leeds West Ham. There's a lot of people who have got Bamford, Rafinha, Luke Ayling, who's obviously picked up a bit of a knock, but should be back. And then for West Ham, we've got all the people that held on to Antonio. So I think that's going to be a massive game for FPL.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And then from there, you've got your 3 teams to back this week. So which team should people be getting a lot of players from?
Definitely Liverpool. They've really impressed me this season. I think they've probably been my favourite team to watch this season, and from an FPL point of view as well. So definitely them. Leicester against Burnley. Like I said before, I've not been too impressed with Burnley. I think Leicester are due a win. And then I'll back Man United just because, Ronaldo's in the team and they're at home and it's an early kickoff. So I'll put Man United as the 3rd option this week.
Yeah, and I think they're 3 very good picks for teams to back for this week, Guru. I've just got a really quick question from the live comments. Max Watto, your biggest fan, he asks you, while you're on the topic of Ferran Torres and talking about him for Man City, is it worth getting him out this week for Ismaila Sarr?
You know what? I don't think that's a bad shout. Sarr's got a good fixture. You're going to save $1 million. So yeah, bring him in. I think it's a good one, Max. So I'd be doing that if I had Torres and I was using a transfer, then I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thank you so much for your time, Guru. A lot of good tips in there. And, remember to watch the live stream with the Guru and myself on Friday night for any more advice that you might need. Well then, as the podcast nears to a close, I've just got the quick reminder to tell you to make sure you're joining the UCL Fantasy Football as it is now live, and there's already been 1 match week for it. So, it's still open to join. You're not going to be at too much of a disadvantage if you do still join now. So make sure you join. The free mini code is 80DVZL5S06, and you can get the paid mini details in the caption below, as well as the free mini ones. The paid mini is 10 Aussie dollars to join, and there's 250 Aussie dollars worth of cash pool prizes to be won. So, what have you got to lose? You've got to get yourself in. You've got to get registered. So make sure you do that. But that does wrap up today's podcast. So I thank you very much for listening along and watching live. To everyone in the chat, thank you so much. And to everyone listening to it back, thank you so much as well. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button as well, and the notification bell on the screen that you can see right there, so that you never miss an upload and you can get notified when we go live. But until then, we'll be back this week. Lots of uploads on the YouTube channel. Watch along this weekend. Live stream with the Guru on the Friday night. So may all your FPL dreams come true in game week 6. Take care. Stay safe. Bye for now.